That's off. That's off. That's on. And it appears to be live. And already, my chat is not updating. Fantastic. We got to do that today. So, we'll get into it then. Here we go. Hello! Shadowcat back with more Babylon 5. We got a great start last time. Took us a bit longer than I was expecting, but then again, we had to write some brand new rules, and that always takes a bit of time. But it's fine. We got through it. It's all good. We're going to have a lot of fun today, because now we get to move into the big ships, and that's what I like. So, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and do that. But before I do, of course, if you're here and you're not subscribed already, go ahead and hit that big subscribe button. Hit the bell icon right next to it. That way you get notified every time these videos come out. If you know somebody else who's also into Babylon 5 or Starfinder, then share this video with them. Otherwise, though, if you dislike me and like what I'm doing, go ahead and leave a like on the video. You can leave a comment down below, too. There's space for that. But if you're going to go ahead and do that, especially if you want to play with us, you got to join the Discord. We have one. I mean, everyone's got a Discord these days, but we have one, too. And if you go there and go to the Behind the Screen channel, then you can let me know what games you want to play and what your availability is. And once I've got enough people, we'll start playing games. So, yeah, come play with us. And looking at the chat, I see that Blizz is in the chat. Hello, Blizz. Good to see you. Glad to have you here. And it's just you for now. So, fun. Hope you're excited. All right. So, we're going to get into this. We're going to need our browser. There we go. We're going to need the spreadsheet. We got that too. Perfect. All right. So, when we were last here, we went over the Babylon 5 station. I'm not going to go over that again because it's awesome, but you'll have like minimal interaction with it. What was more interesting, I think, was when we went over all the Star Furies. Now, the Star Furies are the workhorses of the setting. You have a lot of big ships and everything, but since it is about telling, people stories, the Star Furies are kind of where it's at. And so that's what we built. Now, regular Aurora-class Star Fury. If we go ahead and take a look at that again. That's a Thunderbolt. We'll go back and get a picture of the other one real quick. Fightercraft, here we go. There's the Star Fury. So, this is the Star Fury. It's the Aurora class. It's, like I said, it's the workhorse of everything. It's a fighter. It's a retrieval craft. It does everything. We built one of those. It looks really, really good. We gave it average stats across the board. It's got a T10 engine with perfect maneuverability. It's good. I like it. We made sure to give it these pulse discharge cannons, which we made a note down here. Those are just light plasma cannons. And we gave it a grappler because it needed a grappler. It doesn't have any computer in it except, what it is required to actually run the thing. It doesn't have any sensors because it doesn't really go that far. It has an escape pod, even though it doesn't have an expansion bays, but that's okay because I'm building it and I can put whatever I want into it. It's looking really, really cool. Now, how does it get better? The fact of the matter is that I don't know what my players are going to be doing. The TV show is all about the command staff of the Babylon 5 station and all of their adventures. However, I am not going to be limited to that, and so I don't know what my players want to necessarily do right out the gate. It was really important to me that if my players wanted to be fighter pilots, that they be able to do so. And so I was really hoping that the Star Fury would end up in a range where if my players wanted to start off as fighter pilots aboard a carrier, they could do that. And as it turns out, yes they can. The Star Fury, the Aurora class, only has a 1/2 level tier. And so starting at level 1, they can easily do that. It's great. And before we ended last time, I even went and did the Thunderbolt, because the Thunderbolt is just an upgraded version of the Aurora. And not only did we make one, but it comes in at a tier 1. Which means that, again, if my players wanted to start off as fighter pilots at level 1, they absolutely could. So, that being said, it's all looking really good, and we had to make rules for squadrons. Now, we had to make a rule for squadrons because sending a single Star Fury against anything is suicide. I mean, that's just not how they operate. They operate in squadrons. And these squadrons are usually 12 Star Furies, or a half squadron of 6. Keep that in mind, it'll be important later. So, having a squadron does not necessarily increase the size of the squadron. So it's still going to be tiny. Still has the same maneuverability, all the same bonuses, everything else. The only thing that really changes is the HP. Now, the HP is 30 because these are your bog standard models of Star Furies. Okay? This is what's going to be equipped in pretty much everything. What is interesting about this is that my players will be able to upgrade them if they choose to go the route of being a fighter pilot. And we know, we have evidence from the show that people in positions of authority, we're talking about like the main characters, do have custom fighters, or at least they have custom graphics on their fighters. This, of course, helps to, differentiate them from the rest of the fighters out there, but it also could mean that they have additional systems. We can put better engines on these. We could even put perhaps a better weapon on it. Or add additional computers or sensors or whatever. We can make them better. We can make them into a higher tier. I don't exactly know where it would top out. I guess in theory there is a maximum rank that you could do, but I don't know what it is. Point is, 30 hit points. Your hit points actually do increase as your tier goes up, and so 30 hit points is the base. That's what most things are going to be. So that's what I used. 30 times 12 is going to be 360, so a maximum hull points is going to be 360 in general. And the way this is going to work is, if we come all the way down here to the rules, 1 token will equal many fighters. It's going to be 30 times the number of fighters. You get 1 attack per 30 increment. And that's really simple. We just got to take a calculator. If it's 360, then obviously you're going to get 12 attacks per turn. If we're down to, say, 253, if I go 253 divided by 30, that's 8. Now, why is this important? Well, because the big ships are going to come in and they're going to bring in the big guns. Okay, and their weapons are going to get 1 shot and do just a ton of damage per shot, because they're going to be primarily things like capital and heavy weapons. Star Fury is going to be the other way around. Now, when we're looking at something like a carrier, carriers are so large that they have a natural damage reduction. And I do believe that for a carrier, the damage reduction is 10. That means that you have to do more than 10 points of damage before you can even hurt. You can hurt the vessel. Well, in the show, we watch Star Furies being used against literally everything. They're used against the station, they're used against other ships, they're used against everything. So they have to actually be useful. Now, are they? Well, if we take a look here, the pulse discharge cannons are doing 2d12 damage. Now, 2d12 damage is going to be an average of 14. What does that mean for us? It means that, on average, they should be doing some kind of damage, which is good. If they weren't, on average, then they would be just pointless. When you couple that with the fact that you can have 12 in a squadron, even if each one of them is only doing scratch damage, if you get 12 attacks per turn, that scratch damage adds up. I mean, 14 damage, then we take away the damage reduction, that's 10, that leaves you with 4. That's not much, but when you multiply that by 12 Star Furies, now you're looking at 48 points of damage. That's considerable. So, the squadron effect is looking good. What about the Thunderbolts then? Thunderbolts are very similar, the only difference is they're one step up. Instead of being an interceptor, they are a fighter, which means they get a crew of 2. They can have a dedicated pilot and gunner. They are a little easier to hit, having only a base 11 target lock and armor class, although that does go up depending on who's piloting it. NPCs are not going to get a bonus, so... Well, actually, no, I take it back. Maybe they should, or the bonus on those should be equal to the tier of the mothership. We'll have to wait and see. The critical threshold is 1 point higher. They have a little bit more when it comes to hit points. Because of that, they do have a little bit stronger power core, which helps push them up into the tier 1 category. However, I went back and did my research. Turns out that Thunderbolts absolutely do not have any kind of gimbal in the front of them. I must have just imagined that. What they do have is one fixed forward discharge cannon, and it's the same thing that's on the Star Furies. So, they got the same thing going. But, one thing that they do have is that as a standard, they carry missiles. So, while they don't have the grappler, they do have the missiles, and they can track down other ships. Not to mention that the discharge cannon does 2d12, and the missiles do 4d8. So, there's a big jump there. Other than that, though, same thing, everything else, and we can even put them into a squad as well. So if we've got a dozen of the Thunderbolts, we put them into a squadron together. That would just be 35 times 12, and that would be 480, I think. No. 5 times 12 is another 60 hit points. 360 plus 60 is 420. I could do math. So, that's what we did last time. What are we doing this time? Well, I actually had to sit down and kind of look at it because I wasn't entirely sure. So I have a big list of ships over here that we still need to do. Under the Earth Alliance, we have the Advanced Omega-class Destroyer, Condor-class Transport, the Explorer-class Hyperion, Nova, Olympus, Omega, and Warlock. So let's go over these real quick. So, the Advanced Omega-class Destroyer is literally a one and done, because we only see it on screen once, and after that, there are none left. So we're not even going to bother with that. We're not going to do it. The Condor-class Transport is a transport. We don't really need to do stats for that. It's not going to be relevant. I mean, if you really feel the need to fire on a transport, I don't think I need to roll stats for it. I'm just going to say that you're doing damage to a transport. I'll just look up the base HP for what a transport would be and apply it to that. An Explorer-class ship. Number 1, not a combat ship. And so again, like with the transport, I would just pick some HP and let you roll against that. But number 2, Explorer ships are jump-capable vessels that operate in deep space. You are not likely to come across one. If you are, it will be just a supremely lucky event. And, yeah, so not doing that. Oh, hello. Alden is in. Hello, Alden. Good to see you. Alden says starting earlier today. Actually, no. I always start at the same time. It's always at 10 o'clock Eastern Time, United States. And I don't know where in the world you are, but it's still, regardless, always the same time. Oh, and PC's in. Hello, PC. Good to see you, too. I'm glad to have everybody here this morning, because I may end up buried in snow, and this may be the last stream forever. So, without further ado, we're going to get back to this. So yeah, the Advanced Omega, they don't matter. They happened. They're gone. Condor class, the Transport Explorer class, civilian ship. So then we get into the actual military hardware. The Hyperion class cruiser, it's a staple of the Earth Force Alliance, and we're going to do them. Although I want to kind of do them in both chronological and size order if I can. The Nova class Dreadnought is weird. I'll get to that in a second. The Olympus class Corvette is an older ship. It was primarily featured in the Dilgar War, but we never saw the Dilgar War, which means that the only place that we saw them was in the movie in the beginning. And even then, we only caught glimpses of them. We're going to still try and do one, I think. I'm just not exactly sure what I'm going to do with it. The Omega class is, of course, the staple of the Earth Force Alliance. And so we're going to get that done. And the Warlock class is the latest ship to come out of Earth Force. We'll do one of those as well. And I even went so far as to write it down. So, without further ado, we're going to get into the Hyperion first. Why the Hyperion? Well, because I think I'm going to need it as a reference point for the Olympus. So, it'll make more sense when we get there. So, I'm going to come over here. I need to copy these, paste them here, and then we need to get rid of that. Perfect. Now, obviously, species is going to be human. And this is going to be the Hyperion. Perfect. And Alden says, my brain remembered the time wrongly. Not a big deal. The fact is, you made it, and that's what matters. I'm glad to have you here regardless. Also, I mean, the US changes times. Pretty sure you mentioned the last time when the time changed here, you mentioned that it actually went to a different time for you. Because you don't change times where you're at. And I wish we didn't either. Just pick a time and stick with it. It just seems dumb. Alright. Getting into the Hyperion. Like I said, this is one of the workhorses of Earth Force. These things are everywhere. They're not as tough, they're not as flashy, they're not as scary, but they're still very, very good. Alright, so, the Hyperion class heavy cruiser was an Earth Force warship manufactured by Karma Tech. Don't name your company Karma, it'll always come back to bite you. Manufactured in Earth orbit, yes. Alright, technical capabilities. Like most Earth Alliance ships of the period, it lacked the capability to generate artificial gravity, either through the use of rotating sections or the later, more advanced gravitic drive systems. Actually, this is important, and I'm probably never going to find another reason to cover this. Donnie, let's see, I need to go to rules. The fact of the matter is that they don't have artificial gravity. Does that matter at all to us? The answer is yes. Yes, it does. So I'm going to come down here to Game Mastering Environment. Now, this allows me, this is not necessarily as important to you, but this allows me to create all the worlds and tell you how everything operates. So we've got cosmic rays, vacuum, astronomical objects, things like asteroids and stuff. We've got different atmospheres, strange atmospheres, biomes, stuff like that. But we're looking for gravity. Cold dangers, gravity, here we go. So, gravitational differences between planets have the potential to hinder characters or make them superheroes, and sometimes both at the same time. Most planets habited by humanoids have gravity level defined as standard, which makes them similar enough that trying to arbitrate the difference isn't necessary. Think of it like the... crap, what are they called? The Victory class warships in Babylon 5. Canonically speaking, according to the only reference that we got, it is a ship that has artificial gravity, but they only ever got the gravity working to 95% of Earth normal. Which absolutely nobody had a problem with, because that just meant that every time you stepped on board, you lost 10 pounds. But it's close enough that it really doesn't matter. Life goes on. So we've got extreme gravity, we've got high gravity, we've got low gravity, but what we need to talk about here is zero gravity. Now, this is the environment in which almost all Earth Force ships operate. The Omega class does have a rotating section. However, it has a rotating section. The rest of the ship is still in 0G. The Warlock has artificial gravity, the Victory class has artificial gravity. Those are outliers. We'll get to it. But movement in zero gravity, also referred to as 0G, is not the same as flight. Controlled movement is difficult without some form of propulsion, and creatures without something to push off from often find themselves floating aimlessly. A creature in zero gravity environment can't take move actions to move its speed, crawl, or take a guarded step. If a creature is adjacent to or in the same square as an object, including a wall, floor, or ceiling, or another creature one size category smaller than itself or larger, it can take a move action to push off that object or creature, moving half its speed in the direction of its choosing as appropriate. If that object creature is movable, it begins moving the opposite direction at that speed. Again, Newton's laws. Equal and opposite direction. Moving in 0G, a creature that moves in a given direction continues to move in that direction at the same speed as at the beginning of its turn each round. It must move the full distance unless it is able to change its motion by latching onto an object or creature and pushing off in a new direction, or creating thrust of some kind, which is considered a move action. If a creature runs into a solid object, it must succeed a DC 20 acrobatics or athletics check to safely stop. Failure means that they gain the off-kilter condition. What does that mean? Let me go ahead and duplicate this tab. And we'll go to conditions. Here we go. Off-kilter. So you are disoriented and floating in zero gravity. You cannot take move actions to move your speed, crawl, or take guarded step. You're flat-footed and take a -2 penalty to attack rolls. You must use a method of propulsion to right yourself or grab a stabilizing object such as a wall or ladder. In order to end this condition, see zero gravity on page 402. I'm already on page 402, so that's good. Let's see, if a creature runs into another creature during its movement, both creatures must attempt the check to avoid being off-kilter. A creature anchored to a solid object, such as by boot clamps available to or with most armor, receives a +4 bonus to the check. An off-kilter creature in a zero-gravity environment can steady itself as a move action, requires a surface. It is worth pointing out that in Starfinder, gravity boots or mag boots or clamp boots, whatever, are commonplace. To the best of my knowledge, in Babylon 5, they are not. And I say that because we do routinely see people operating in 0G environments, and they float. If people had magnetic boots or something, they wouldn't float. So, I have to assume that they do not come standard with every suit of armor in this environment, and perhaps we should make a note of that. Let me come over here to the overview, and we will just put a note that mag boots are rare or don't exist. Alright, let's see. An off-kilter creature and a zero-gravity environment can steady itself as a move action that requires a surface to grab onto. Yes. If provided with sufficient handholds, a creature with a climb speed can move along a wall at full speed, as can any creature that succeeds an acrobatics or athletics check. Creatures that fly via methods that require an atmosphere, such as wings or turbofans, cannot use their fly speeds in a vacuum. Once they re-enter an atmosphere, they can recover and get their bearings within 1d4 rounds, after which they can fly normally. Magical flight doesn't matter because we're not using magic. Weapons. Thrown weapons have their range increment multiplied by 10 in 0G. In addition, all ranged weapons no longer have a maximum number of range increments. Their wielders simply continue to accrue penalties the further away the target is. Since it's a -2 penalty for every increment, then we can do that really simple. Just measure the distance, divide by the increment, apply penalties. So, that's 0G, and that is the environment for pretty much every single one of these Earth Force ships. Also, Narn ships. The Narn do not have any way to generate gravity, and they don't even bother to try. They just operate in 0G. Minbari and Centauri both use gravitic drives, and so they get artificial gravity by default. So, looking at the Hyperion again, they had to operate in a completely zero-gravity environment, requiring the use of seat straps and handholds to work effectively. Several decks are dedicated to crew quarters and facilities. The crew are often granted leave of time after a tour to adapt to gravity again. Ships of this class range from 8 to 10 decks, not including the command deck. In later years, ships such as the Clarkstown were seen upgraded with newer weapons, such as the 52mm plasma pulse cannon used on the Omega-class destroyer. Presumably, as the Warlock class destroyer was able to generate a gravity field, this feature was added to Hyperions as well. Presumably, though, we don't actually know. And so, for the time being, I'm just going to operate under the idea that they don't. So, that's the technical capabilities. If we look over here at the tech sheet, they classified as a heavy cruiser. However, one of the things that I've learned is that classifications like this are difficult at best to keep straight. They call it a cruiser. Is it actually a cruiser? I don't know. I really don't. I mean, I even sat down with ChatGPT and tried to work out what is the difference between all of these, because the Olympus class is a corvette. Well, what even is a corvette? I don't know what a corvette is. Let me see if I can pull up the discussion that I was having. Do I still have that discussion? I don't even remember. Was it this conversation? Yes, it was this conversation. Okay. So, establishing roles. Here we go. This was the way that ChatGPT described corvettes to me, because I had to ask and I didn't know. The word corvette goes back to 17th century European navies and originally meant a small warship. The name itself comes from the French corvée, or corvette, related to crow or a small vessel. And PC says it's a sports car built on Earth, but that's not important right now. Yes, I know that. Specify, not the car. So by the age of sail, navies broadly sorted ships like this. Either ships of the line, which were the big ships, frigates, which were usually fast, independent, and long range, and corvettes, which were small, fast, cheap, local duty warships. And so I went into like, what do all the others use, because I really needed to just have a general understanding of everything. And so this is kind of what I worked out. A tiny ship is essentially going to be something like a racer, the fighters, the interceptors. Small ships are my shuttles and light freighters. We can slap guns on those and they become patrol craft. Medium ships, my explorers and transport vessels. Those could be possibly corvettes. My large ships, which are called in Starfinder destroyers and heavy freighters. Those would be my frigates. Huge ships which would be bulk freighters and cruisers, would be more akin to the destroyer size. And gargantuan includes the carriers and dreadnoughts. Those would be more the cruiser size. And then colossal is a dreadnought, and dreadnoughts are already the biggest ships, so that actually worked out. But somewhere in here, I had a summary for all of these. Where was it? Where was it? Actually, no. Didn't I make a note about this? I think I made a note about this. Hold on. Scrolling. I did make a note about this. Look at that. So, obviously, when it comes to things like patrol boats are not blue water capable. They stick closer to shore, and their entire thing is just, you know, we're safeguarding territory. Once you get into corvettes, though, those would be your first, essentially, blue water vessels, which means that they're the first ones who are able to go off on their own. And the idea was really simple. Corvettes, they don't have the power to necessarily kill things. Not to say that they can't. Even a corvette can get lucky. But the idea is that they're going to punish you for staying. In other words, go away. Frigates, on the other hand, frigates are for when you didn't get the idea the first time, and now we're just going to sink you. Okay? We're going to chase you down. We're going to hamstring you. We're going to kill you. It might take a bit, but we're going to kill you. Destroyers are the first ones that just say, yeah, you're going to die now. Okay? Like, you shouldn't have been here. You had your chances. You couldn't have missed the flotilla. You chose to be here. Destroyers just kill things on contact. Cruisers are like walking deterrents, or in this case, I guess, floating deterrents. And then dreadnoughts are usually your capital ship, and those are operational based. The dreadnought is like the reason why you're here. So, they classify the Hyperion as a cruiser. It's one of those things that, like, if you're seeing a cruiser, you're probably in the wrong place at the wrong time. And that's what they're calling it. Now, is that really going to fit what we're doing here? I don't know. We got to compare it to the actual frame. And I see that JP's in here. Hello, JP. JP's now going to go through and correct everything that I said in the last 15 minutes. And yes, you can hamstring somebody in space, shoot their engines out. No, seriously, I mean, just shoot their engines. You can critically damage engines for a reason. Alright, so that's what they're showing for this. The Hyperion here, supposed to be a heavy cruiser. Given the weapons that it has, it might be. We'll work on it. So, getting back to this, It says on here the crew is about 350. We will probably adjust that depending on how things work out. I mean, just for starters, it says that it is a kilometer long. It's 1,025 meters. A full kilometer, I would have to convert this. Let me jump to my other tab here so that I can convert it. Let's see. 1,025 kilometers is 3,362 feet. I need that because if I go down, or if I go to the starships and I look at the sizes, anything over 3,000 feet is going to fall well within the gargantuan category, so I don't think I can use their actual sizes here. And JP just says, hey all, it's good to have you here. Alright, so yeah, sizes is out. So how else do we want to do this? We could look at the actual weapon mounts. Because it tells us exactly what's on it. It has 2 cannons there, 2 cannons there is 4, 2 phased particle cannons is 6, 4 pulse discharge cannons is 10, and then 2 thermonuclear torpedo tubes is 12. Okay, let's take a look at frames and see what we've got. I'm going to go for the large ships first to see what we can do. So here we go. Here's a destroyer frame. It has 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mounts on it. Is this the way that we want to go? I'm not sure. And like, see, here's the problem that I'm having. I just went over all the different size categories of ships right here and essentially what their role is inside of a flotilla. Now, according to Babylon 5, the Hyperion is a cruiser. Okay? And that's fine. Let's just go ahead and assume that it's a cruiser, alright? It's a cruiser, and it's there, and it's scary, and everything else. Where is my page? There it is. If we go back here, keeping in mind that the length of the Hyperion right here is a kilometer long. The Omega-class destroyer is almost 2 kilometers long, with a complement that is almost 3 times what's on the Hyperion. And just an absolute ton of armaments on this thing. And they call it a destroyer, which is exactly backwards from what we're doing here. Okay, destroyers are smaller than cruisers, so I cannot trust anything they're saying. We gotta figure it out on our own. And we may have to abstract a little bit. We know that the ship has pulse cannons, we know that it has particle cannons, we know that it has discharge cannons, and we know that it has missiles. We need to include all of those on there. We also need to have 6 Star Furies or Thunderbolts. Now, about the whole 6 Star Furies thing. One of the things that I was looking at is everything so far has more or less worked out in our favor because 12 is a really, really divisible number. It's like the perfectly divisible number, which is why we use a dozen for everything, to be honest. A hangar bay holds 8. And so if I needed to have 48 Star Furies like we did on Babylon 5, then all we need to do is just figure out where do our numbers line up. 48 is divisible by 12, and so whereas one hangar bay does not equate to one, it doesn't equate to one squadron, the numbers worked out in the end. One of the things that I did notice, though, is that for the hangar bay is going to take up 4 bays. Okay? It says that it takes up 4 expansion bays, provides a place for up to 8 tiny starships to dock. That is essentially 2 tiny starships, so interceptors or fighters, per hangar bay. All I really have to do is figure out exactly how much does a single hangar bay cost. Now that does not equate easily because it's 30 PCU and 10 build points. If I divide that by 4, we come out to roughly 7 PCU and 2.5 build points. I could round it up and call it 3. And as a matter of fact, I might. So if we call it each individual hangar module 7 PCU and 3 build points, that means that in order to get 6 Star Furies, we would need to have 3 of them. So we're looking at 21 PCU and 9 build points. We can do that. It also means that we need to have a frame that has at least 3 expansion bays on it. Also, it says that they can only be mounted on a gargantuan or larger starship. However, if we're less than 4, I figure we can do a large frame, I think. Or not a large, a huge frame. So gargantuan ships are going to be my carriers and battleships. Huge, though. Huge could be a cruiser. The cruiser only has 1 forward capital weapon, 1 port, 1 starboard, and 1 turret. We could kind of strip that down, though. We could make that different. And the cruiser has 6 expansion bays, so that should work. The crew, I think we're just going to ignore, so yeah, I think we'll go ahead and we'll use the actual cruiser. Anything heavier than that, and I think that we risk stepping on other ships' toes. And it also means that the Olympus, we can go 1 size smaller and turn the Olympus into a destroyer. Again, the names are kind of all over the place. The fact that we're turning a cruiser into a cruiser, completely coincidental. Alright, so let's get to work. Size is going to be huge. Frame, cruiser. Now, let's get all of our information down here. The maneuverability is average. And JP says, don't ignore the crew. Well, I have to ignore the crew in this one. Because according to the wiki, the Hyperion has a crew of 350, and according to Starfinder, 350 people won't even fit on the ship. So, I'm gonna have to ignore the crew ratings. But don't worry, we'll do it. Crew, 350. There we go. See? They're on there. Alright. Frame pilot bonus is a +0 because it's only average. The turn rate is going to be 2. And then we will get into the thruster speed and all that stuff later. Armor class. Right now we're sitting at a 10 and a 10. We do have a damage threshold. It's going to be 5, which again, going back to our Star Furies, is going to make sure that our Star Furies stay relevant. A Hyperion is going to have, let's see, a critical threshold of 36, which means that Star Furies will never inflict critical damage. unless they get like an actual natural 20 roll, which, to be fair, when you're throwing a whole bunch more d20s, getting 20s happens a lot more often. So they can't do critical damage through sheer damage, but they will get more lucky shots. Whereas pretty much every shot from something like this will inflict critical damage on a Star Fury. But we'll see that as we go forward. Max hull points, base, I should say, is going to be 180. Okay. And then expansion space is going to be 6. I'm going to go to, already right now, I'm just going to say hangar module times 3. And I'm just going to put here hangar module. It's going to be PCU 7 and BP 3. And 2 tiny craft each. Just because the Hyperion is not big enough to hold a whole hangar module. It has exactly 1/2 of a squadron, 1 wing of Star Furies. I think it's wing. Is it wing or is it flight? I get those mixed up. It doesn't really matter, but I'm trying to be accurate here. Okay, so, we're going to go ahead and remove the fill in these for a moment. And let's take a look at, again, what does this thing have for everything else. Power core we will figure out later, once we know exactly what we got to do. Thrusters. So let's start off with the thrusters. I will go back to my Starship generator because it's convenient. For a huge starship, and this is a huge, we only have the options of 4, 6, 8, and 10. That means that if I wanted to go middle ground, I have to choose between 6 and 8 when it comes to move speed. I think... Well, hold on a second. Let me take a look at the actual thrusters. Let me go with whatever does not give a bonus. Okay, because these are not going to be performance engines. So, thrusters going down to the H's. The H6 gives a bonus to maneuverability. The H8s do not. So, we're going to go with the H8s. Because they're just going to be standard engines. That does mean that they're going to be a little bit on the quicker side, which is not a bad thing. A little bit on the quicker side, however, again, when we look at the Star Furies, they all have speed 10. There is no way a cruiser is going to outrun a Star Fury, or an entire squadron of Star Furies. But this is a good thing, actually. Why is this a good thing? Because they have one thing going for them. The power core we can't do yet, but jump engines. Hyperions are jump capable. And that is the escape route for the Hyperion, because no Star Fury is going to follow them through a jump point and get themselves stranded. They have the option to retreat. Now that we've got that, computer and sensors. Now this is a little bit weird, because in order to determine what kind of computer it has... Actually, no, I don't think I need to do that. The computer's going to be basic. And I realized that we did the same thing on the Star Furies, but the reason I'm doing it is this. The computers in Babylon 5, we never see doing a whole lot of things other than simply automating things. In Starfinder, the computer exists almost exclusively just to give your crew bonuses. And I don't know that we see that necessarily in the show. The example that I can think of would be every time that I've seen them using the weapons in Babylon 5. You have the captain or the XO on deck. And they are literally giving the orders of what to do. But the thing is that they're giving orders to people, and the people are the one inputting those orders. If they say that they want a full spread of fire at medium range, somebody has to go to the computer and type all of that in. It's not automated. And so I think I'm just going to go with a basic computer because I don't think anybody's getting bonuses from these things. Maybe it's handling some of the calculations in the background, but I don't know that it's necessarily making their job any easier. So I'm going to stick with basic. Now, sensors on the other hand, I'm not going to go too fancy. However, I'm not going to go cut rate. For sensors, we can go with budget long range. Okay, budget long range. And why? Well, because again, the sensors are really nothing to write home about, but they do have them. Not only do they have them, they are capable of using them, and they use them often. Okay, there's always somebody watching the sensors. It's like a submarine would always have somebody on radar, or rather sonar. Somebody's always going to be on sensors. So budget long makes sense. Now, we're only using 3 of our expansion bays. I don't necessarily have anything to put in the other ones. But it is room to actually add stuff in, so should we ever want to make a custom one of these, we can. Alright, so now, taking a look at the Hyperion, because we need to fill in the actual weapons. This thing has 12 weapons on it. We said 2 and 2, and 2 is 6, 4 and 2 is 6, 6 and 6 is 12. I don't necessarily think that we want to do that, because technically speaking, I do have 20 spaces on here for, I have 20 spaces for weapons. But let's look at what we've got. We have these plasma pulse cannons. Isn't that the same thing that we put on the Starfires? No, it's not. We put pulse discharge cannons. What about the station? The Babylon 5 station has plasma cannons. And plasma pulse cannons. I just put pulse cannons on all of these. Should I put plasma on them? Hold on. Let me go back and look at the Babylon 5 station real quick. Actually, it's on this tab right here. Particle cannon, pulse cannons, plasma cannons. No, that's how they got this listed. Is there anything different in here? Let me just make sure, because you never know. Locations. Location, location, location. Let's see. Displacement, defenses. It just says a defense grid. So, yeah, not going to get anything from that. In that case, I have pulse cannons and I have plasma cannons. These are plasma pulse cannons. These are both. So I have to pick one. Oh, this is hard. We do have the pulse discharge cannons. And those are the same things that we used on the Star Fury. So we know that these we've already established are offensive. The pulse cannons on Babylon 5 are defensive. So here's what I think we're gonna do. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy this over. Okay? I'm gonna copy this over. Now, plasma pulse discharge cannons. I need to establish whether these are going to be light or these are going to be heavy. Because I do believe that this is the same thing that we have on Babylon 5, and they're going to be point weapons. Now, they did give us a differentiation between 52mm and 40mm. I don't know if this is really going to affect us enough that I need to make a differentiation between heavy and light. But I probably could. Alright, we'll do it. Alright. 52mm plasma pulse cannon equals, and this is going to be a heavy laser net, because that's what we're doing with the Babylon 5 station. That's our point weapon. The 40mm plasma pulse cannon is going to equal the light laser net. There we go. And so those will define our terms for us. The two-phased particle cannons. Actually, I think we have particle cannons. And if we go back to the cruiser, because I want to go back to the cruiser for just a moment and look at the base frame. Let's see, large, huge cruiser. The cruiser does have capital weapons mounted on it, okay? It has capitals, it has lights, and it has heavies. If we come back here to weapons, we've got heavy weapons, but I want to come down to capital weapons for a moment. Capital weapons. Gravity cannons, mass drivers, particle beam cannon. That sounds pretty much exactly like what we're looking for. It just says phased particle cannons, and we have particle beam cannon. Capital weapon, long range, 3d4 times 10. It's looking good. I wonder, though. Okay, I wonder. PC says this implies that others have lowercase weapons. They do, in fact. They're very lowercase. I want to look at the Omega class destroyer real quick. It's a beautiful ship. I love it so very, very much. And as you can see, it has a great big red laser cannon coming out the front of it. Now, those things are important because it's listed as having 4 520mm plasma pulse cannons, 6 laser batteries fore and aft. Okay, that is what that red beam is going to be then. It is a laser battery, it is not a particle beam, so we cannot compare. We cannot compare these, which means that the particle beam has to be its own thing. Do we have a capital laser? We have a prismatic beam, shadow bolt array, super EMP cannon, super plasma cannon. we do have a super laser. Okay? Now, this, I think, is going to be what we end up putting on the Omega. At least, that's my thinking at the moment. Or we could go with the Super Mazer, but it literally says laser. I'm going to stick with what the name says. And, you know, at 2d4 times 10, that's a lot. The particle beam is 3d4 times 10, so it's actually a little bit heavier hitting than the Omega is. JP just says laser versus laser. I'm not sure. Actually, you know what I'm really having second thoughts on is even putting a capital weapon on this ship at all. I think that what we're going to do is I think I might just put a heavy particle beam on it, because I've got those. So, yeah, right here under a particle beam, it's 8d6 damage, which is, you know, a lot. But I think it fits with what we're doing better. Especially if we're going to get 2 of them. So here's what I think we're going to do. Here's what I think we'll do. We need to have a lot of these on here. The pulse discharge cannons, I'm not even sure where the pulse discharge cannons are going to go. I mean, there's 4 of them. I could put 1 in every direction. I could put them all in the turret. Turret would make sense for point defense weapons, honestly. I think I have an idea. I think I have an idea here. We're gonna arm this thing to the teeth, and it's gonna be very impressive. So the first thing we need to do, definition, the, what's it called again? Phased particle cannon. Is going to equal a heavy particle beam. Actually, it's not even really called a heavy particle beam, it's just a particle beam. And there we go. I mean, it's a long-range weapon. It does good damage. It's going to be fine. And then the pulse discharge cannons, we've already got those. We put them on there. That was the first thing that we did because those were on the Star Furies. And the thermonuclear torpedo tubes, well, those are just nukes. And I've got those. We have nukes. The only question is, are they heavy or are they light? And if I'm looking at the weapons here, the pulse discharge cannons, these are light. This one's heavy. This is light. This is heavy. I'm inclined to make them light. Just because I don't want to overbalance things too much. I'm a little concerned with overbalancing things. Then again, I mean, let me take a look. Let's see, what do we got here? Magic torpedo, heavy plasma torpedo, heavy nuclear missile launcher. Irradiate medium, limited fire 5, does 10d8 damage. You know what? Never mind. Let's go ahead and just put heavy nuclear missile on there. We'll go ahead, we'll just do that. So let me make sure that I get this written down. Thermonuclear torpedo tube. Heavy nuclear, right? Heavy nuclear missile. Yeah. Heavy nuclear missile. There we go. And PC says, does that mean that technomages using lasers are being elite hackthors that they are? Yeah, because they use lasers. Actually, it's not even a joke. They really do use lasers. Okay, I think that's going to be good for that. Now we just got to fill everything in. So the turret is going to get all of the point defense weapons. And so that's going to be the 52mm plasma pulse cannon. JP says, all these lasers, can we have a rave? Sure. If you can float. Because everything's in space, and so if you can dance in 0G, then sure, you can have a rave. Now, with the plasma pulse being the heavy laser net, here it is. 5d6. It's also 15 and 15. I should probably write that down now. A 5d6. And it's going to be point plus 12. There we go. And then, naturally, the light laser net. We'll just scroll up for that one. That one is up here. There it is, laser net. Found it. All right. And the light laser net is just 2d6. Oh, also 10 and 9. And the point bonus on this one is only 10. Oh, Alden says, gonna go to bed. Have fun, everybody. We will have fun. At least I'm having fun. I don't know if anybody else is. But it was good to have you here. Thank you for coming, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. Till then, take care. All right, point plus 10. And 9. Alright, so that takes care of those. Going back to the Hyperion, we've got both of those done. Now, the two-phased particle cannons. Obviously, those are going to go on the front. So, phased particle cannon. And we established these are just regular particle cannons. Oops, wrong tab. So we'll come down here. Particle beam. 25 and 20. Those are expensive. But then again, this is a big capital ship, so it should be expensive. So the particle beam is long. Oh yeah, I guess I should have noted that on these. Short. And short. Now, the actual particle cannon is going to be long 8d6. And there's really nothing special about it. It's just a big beam. So we got that. And then we have the rest. So we also have the 2 nukes that we need to put in here. And we may as well put them on the front as well. So there's the heavy nuclear missile launcher. I mean, where else are we going to put them that makes sense? So thermonuclear torpedo. This is going to be tracking. Well, okay. I need to put that there. It does 10... No, it's antimatter. Heavy nuclear missile, 10d8. And it has tracking 10. And there's a limit of 5, but that's true for almost everything. And for the heavy nuclear missile launcher, it's 15 and 35. And if you're getting an idea of these numbers, and you're saying that there's like no way that the players are going to be able to pilot one of these ships, yes, that's kind of the point. They would have to level up a considerable amount to actually captain one of these ships. All right, so that takes care of those, but we still have a few others. So we've got the defenses. We've got the particle cannons, we've got the missiles, now we just need the 4 discharge cannons. And the only place to really put them is either going to be port, starboard, or aft. And I'm thinking that we're going to put them on port and starboard. And we're going to leave aft mostly empty. Why are we going to leave aft mostly empty? Doesn't that seem like a really bad idea? Well, yes, except that we have all of these on a turret. Which means that technically the aft is never uncovered because we can always turn the turret backwards. And JP says, I can't have the Yorktown at level 1? No. No, you cannot. Okay, now, the fun thing about this is that I already kind of have the work done here. Pulse discharge cannons are over here. We'll put those there. And those there. And now I just got to remember exactly what they were. They are light plasma cannons. And light plasma cannons cost how much? They cost 10 and 12. 10, 12, 10, 12. There we go. Okay, so that is a Hyperion fully kitted out. And it looks good. It looks really good. I need to get these hangar modules in here, so it's going to be 21 and 9. The basic computer, I believe, doesn't cost anything. Pretty sure it doesn't. It just has to be there. Yeah, it doesn't cost anything. And the budget-long sensors are going to cost us 6 build points. But before we can do that, we still need to have a power core. So it's time to go ahead and figure out how much power we need. I didn't write down what I needed for the base frame. Heavy hauler, Vermith, bulk freighter, cruiser. The cruiser is 60 on its own. And the H8 thrusters are 140 power units. That's expensive. And obviously, shields are not a thing. And I'm not putting any additional armor on them either at the moment, because armor can vary from ship to ship. Okay, so, power core. How much are we gonna need here? Starting with the thrusters. We've got 140 power there. Coming down to the weapons. 25 and 25 is 50. 15 and 15 is 30. 10 times 4 is 40. 15 and 15 is 30. 10 and 10 is 20. And the hangars are going to require 21. Which means that we have a current power core requirement of 331. That's a lot. So, PCU is going to be 331. Now, what kind of power core do we need then? It's got to be something that'll fit on a huge frame. Means that we're pretty much restricted to everything from the Nova Light on down. And since we're at 331, the only thing, well, not the only, but the options that we have available are going to be the Gateway Heavy or the Gateway Ultra. It's going to have to be the Gateway Heavy. Gateway Heavy at 400. And that is going to cost us 40. So, let's go through and figure out exactly how much does this ship cost then. 60 for the frame, 8 for the thrusters. And I haven't even figured out what a jump engine is going to cost. So, yeah. JP says, we need ultimate power. Sorry, Star Wars bled through there a little bit. Hey, I have actually thought, I put some thought into doing a Star Wars module. I thought about it. Not doing it, but I thought about it. Star Wars is just too much. It's really just too much. Anyway, the phase particle cannons, that's another 40. The nukes are another 70. The particle discharge cannons are another 48. The 52 millimeters are another 30. The 40 millimeters are another 18. The sensors are 6. And the hangar is 9. As it stands right now, I'm looking at 289. Now, one of the things that I don't have on here is I don't have life pods on here. Do capital ships have life pods? Yes, they do. Here's the problem with it, though. And I know they do because during one episode during a firefight, when they see one of these ships disabled and about to detonate, you can hear the captain saying, "Get to the life pods, get to the life pods." Technically speaking, they have them. But I'm going to show you why this is a problem for us. We want escape pods. Nothing fancy, just regular escape pods. Escape pods give the crew of a badly damaged starship way to avoid imminent death. The escape pod fits one medium or smaller creature and has enough supplies and life support for them to survive 7 days. It is also fitted with a distress beacon that is easily identified by long-range scanners. An escape pod has heat shields that allow it to crash land on a planet. A single expansion bay can be converted into 6 escape pods. And you may see my problem. We have 350 people on board this ship. If we were to play this, rules as written, which I'm trying to do as much as possible, then in order to have enough escape pods for everybody to escape the ship, we would need 350 divided by 6. Yes, that's an ugly number. 360 escape pods divided by 6 would be 60 escape pods. Or rather, is 60 escape pod modules. Now, if every single one of these cost me 2 PCU, that's another 120 power, and another 60 build points, and 60 expansion bays that we don't have. So, as such, I have one of only 2 options. Number 1, hand wave it, and just say that the escape pods exist, because they do. Which may be the better way to go about it. I mean, I know that we did it on the Star Furies and we counted that towards our build points. I can always go back and change that. I could hand wave it and just say that escape pods exist on all the ships and everyone's going to get out of here. Or I could simply say they don't. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do a consultation. Okay? I'm going to consult here. JP, I know you're paying attention. How many people can a typical Navy vessel evacuate? Is there any way that a Navy vessel evacuates everybody on board? Because I could be wrong, but I'm willing to bet that the primary evacuation plan for a Navy vessel is a life jacket and a floaty ring. I mean, I know that they have lifeboats, okay? I know they have inflatable rafts, but I don't think that they have enough for everybody necessarily. I could be wrong about that, and I would actually love to be proven wrong on this one because it means that the Navy thinks way further ahead than I do. But I don't think so. Just because you would need so very, very many of them. And I mean, lifeboats, yeah. And JP says, yes, it's called abandoned ship. Well, I get that it's called abandoned ship. My question is, do they have enough boats for everybody? Now, like I said, I realize that a life raft, when it's fully compressed, does not take up a lot of room. And you can just throw it in the water. As soon as it hits the water, it opens up. JP says, true, we had our own personal survival gear to float. Yeah, everybody has a life vest. Not to mention that I think most of the stuff around you is designed to float anyway. But I'm talking about actual life boats. Because again, like, if the ship goes down, you can float in the ocean. Okay, you can float in the ocean. You don't have to worry about suffocating to death, like, immediately because there's nothing there. In space, if you don't have an escape pod, you are just dead. And so I wonder if we have to kinda hand wave it. I'm not sure on this one. It actually, you know what, it really doesn't matter, because if I have to hand wave it anyway, I can't put the build points in there. Yeah, I just have to say that yes, they exist, and we're not and we're not going to do it. JP says a carrier is always accompanied by smaller ships. If we have to jump, the smaller ships pick us up. There are lifeboats for about 1,000. Okay, that's what that's kind of what I needed to see. So they do not operate on the mandate that everyone is getting a boat, which is fine. I mean, it's great for a carrier. For our ships, not so much. However, does that mean that the doctrine would not remain the same? I mean, Babylon 5 is a space station. It does not have it doesn't have escape pods at all. Even if a captain was looking at another listing ship and saying get to the life pods, they might not mean necessarily everybody's going to get off. They might just mean that hopefully somebody gets off. In which case, I could add them. We do have an additional 3 expansion bays. I could put in 3 expansion bays worth of life pods. And that gives us 18 escape pods. You could save 18 people from a ship of 350. That's a lot less than the 1 in 6 from a carrier. I don't know. I'll tell you what, I'll think about this one. I will think about it. For the time being, if we just ignore the whole life pod thing, we're looking at 289 build points. Now that we've got the power core installed and the fact that it's jump capable. So 289. If we come back to this list, 289 is going to make it a solid tier 10. And I actually think that's rather reasonable. I think that is rather reasonable. After all, if you're going to make captain, I mean, how many people even make it to captain? It's pretty rare to make it to captain. Mostly because there's only so many boats out there. But, point is, if you wanted to captain this ship, you would have to be level 10. And I'd say that, you know, anything after level 15, you're probably in admiral territory anyway, so yeah. I think this actually works out really well. I think this is a really, really good look for the Hyperion. So, now that the Hyperion is done, and it's looking pretty good, let's take a step backwards then and see if we can build ourselves an Olympus. Now, why do I say we'll see if we can? Well, do you see this big, beautiful tech sheet right here? If we go back and we go to the Olympus class Corvette, we do not have one of those. Okay, that's all we know. This is everything. We have a history of the ship. We have no technical details. The only thing that we have is a length on it at roughly 444 meters, which makes it about half the size of a Hyperion, a little bit less. And we know that it has these blue-colored pulse bolts with several emplacements of them. And that's all we know. So, we're going to go ahead and we're going to build us an Olympus-class ship. And we're going to build us an Olympus-class ship because I don't know what else to do with it, and so I'm just going to have to invent this one. But it's okay. We're going to get a little creative here because we have the Hyperion to use as a marker. This is why we did the Hyperion first. And it's going to make a lot more sense here really quick. Now, the Hyperion is about 1 kilometer long. The Olympus is about half the size. If it's half the size, I'm going to assume it's going to have half the crew. Right? So if it's going to have half the crew, let's say 175. Size is going to be large. And because it's going to be large, let's look at the frames that we have available. We already did this before. We know it's going to be a destroyer. But we'll come back here again. Large. The first of our larges is a tanker. The second is a destroyer. And so we're going to go ahead and build this Olympus to the destroyer specifications. That is to say, we're going to use this block. And we're going to follow it to the letter. So, it is a destroyer. The maneuverability is average. There is no bonus, and it takes 2 hexes to turn. We are not going to give it any armor out the gate. It's going to have an armor class of 10 by default. It has no damage threshold, but it does have a critical threshold of 30. So you still got to hit it pretty hard. Star Furies are going to have a hard time getting any critical damage on this still. The max hull points are going to be 150. Oh, and one thing that I forgot, as I forgot to adjust the hull points on the Hyperion. We'll get that in a moment. We'll get that in a moment. We can clear that out because we don't have that yet. But expansion space. It has 4 bays. Now we don't know what's in them, so I'm not going to put anything in them yet. But we know they're there. I am going to go ahead and give it a basic computer right out the gate. I'm going to say no defensive countermeasures, and I'm going to say budget medium for the sensors, just because it is an older ship, and I'm going to assume older technology. Makes sense, right? Now, before I go much further, I'm going to scroll down here to the cruiser. The increment on this is going to be 25, which means that at tier 10, it's going to get 2 of those. So that's 50. The Hyperion has 230 HP starting out. Alright, did that. Now, thrusters. Let's get into this real quick. Oh, and before I do that, let me write down how much does the destroyer cost us. 30. It costs us 30. Perfect. Now we'll get into this. Thrusters. Now, it's a large ship, so let's see what we got. L4 through L10. The slowest one with no bonus is going to be the L8, so it's going to go 8 hexes per turn. which is cool, because that means that it keeps right up with the Hyperion. It's good. You want your flotilla to stay together. The L8 is going to be 140, and then 8. Wait a minute, that's H8. L8, 108. All right, getting down to the power core, we'll do that later. Jump capable. We do not know. However, given that this was used during the Dilgar War, I'm going to go ahead and assume yes. Okay. Now, I need to go back and look at the destroyer frame again, because I did not mark down the weapons. Okay. So, the destroyer has 2 forward heavy weapons. It has 1 light to the port. It has 1 light on starboard. It has 1 light aft. And it has 1 light turret. So there we go. This ship, when we get done building it, should be fairly well balanced. Now, we're going to fill all of these slots in. So, what do we want for heavy weapons? I could just go to what we did for the Hyperion, given that the Hyperion basically succeeded this ship, and copy the weapons that it has, because the pulse discharge cannons, these are light. The plasma pulse cannons, these are point weapons. I don't know if I would want to use that or not. All we have to go by is that it used some unknown type of blue pulsed bolts. So no lasers, no beams. So that means that the phase particle cannon is out. The pulse discharge cannons could be in. However, these are light. So I gotta think about this for a second. The pulse discharge cannons are just plasma guns, right? Pulse discharge cannon is a light plasma cannon. We have regular plasma cannons. Yeah, I can do that. As a matter of fact, I don't even have to dress this one up. I don't have to use the actual terminology because it's not dictated anywhere. So I can say, light plasma cannon right here. And we can use that for these. It's going to be short range, 2d12, nothing else special about it. And these are going to cost us 10 and 12. 100? What? Just 10. And this fits pretty well because it does seem that plasma is the way to go in general. So, that leaves us with the heavy weapons. Well, if we're using light plasma cannons, it assumes that we would go ahead and use heavy plasma cannons on the front. Do we have those? Of course we have those. We have just regular plasma cannons. So, plasma cannon. Now, these are actually medium range. So, medium. 5d12, and there's nothing else really special about them, but they cost 30 power and 20 build points. So there we go. We've got plasma cannons on the front, light plasma cannons the rest of the way around. The only thing that I might change on this would be to make this into a point weapon, but... do I want to? I don't know if I want to. I'm going to. I'm going to. Which means that I gotta grab the laser net stat instead. But that's okay. It's right here. Laser net, here we go. Laser net. 10 and 9. Same power, just a little bit cheaper. Alright, so the basic computer doesn't cost anything. The budget medium sensors. Budget medium sensors only cost 3 build points. Not 30. Just 3. And again, since we have no expansion bay information, there's nothing else to put on here, which means that we're pretty much done with this one. That didn't take much, did it? So let's see what we need for power. And we may have to adjust this later on when we do hyperspace, because I don't know what we're going to need. I think I determined last time that I think we're going to use like 200 power for the jump engine. I think that was my idea. But I'm not positive yet. Anyway, power requirements. 100 for the engines. Plus 60 for the plasma cannons. Plus another 30, well, actually 40 for the rest of the weapons. And that's it. Which comes out to an even 200. I mean, you couldn't try, or you couldn't do that any better. 200, and it's a large ship. So, what is the cheapest power core that we can get for this? After all, remember, everything in the military is built by the cheapest bidder. So, for 200 on a large ship, the cheapest I can do is the Arcus Maximum. So, Arcus Maximum at 200 power units even, which means it's going to cost us 20. And, again, talking about the jump engines, if the jump engines were to require you to use 200 power units, that means in order to activate the jump engines on this ship, it would require you to turn everything off. I mean everything. You have to turn the coffee pot off on this ship before you can turn on the jump engines. And JP says, not true. Safety before cheap. I mean, I'm not going to argue with you. All I'm going to say is that the astronauts of the Apollo 1 mission are going to argue with you. Yeah, and pretty much every Apollo mission after that, too. I guess I shouldn't have said military. I should have just said government. Everything government is built by the lowest bidder. Then then again, everything commercial is built by the lowest bidder too. Just everything is built by the lowest bidder. Nobody builds anything to last anymore. Put some pride in your work. See, I'm building something. I'm building this to last. All right? I'm building this so that people will be able to play this game forever. And JP says that was NASA. Still government. All right, now let's go ahead and add up our build points here so I can figure out exactly what tier this ship is. Starting with the frame. That is 30 plus 8 plus 20 for the power core. That's another 40 for the plasma cannons. And 36 for the light plasma cannons. 9 for the point defense. And 3 for the sensors. Which comes out to 146 build points. So if we go ahead and consult the chart, 146 build points is going to put it squarely in Tier 5 territory. How perfect is this? That means that the Olympus is approximately half of one Hyperion in every regard. It is half the size. It is half the complement. It is half the complexity. It is half the build points. It is just a smaller version of that ship. Which I think this is great. I like this. This is working out really well. Again, I don't know if I'm going to assign build points to the jump engine. I assume that I have to. Even if I do, I don't see it really pushing any of these ships up a tier. However, we just made a ship that, by every practical definition, doesn't exist. It's been seen on screen only a couple of times, and we just gave it life. That's something to be proud of. Also, being Tier 5, that does mean that it gets exactly 1 HP upgrade. So what is the increment for a destroyer? The HP increment is 20. And so it's going to go from 150 to 170. And there we go. Looking good. Okay. So that takes care of those. And I do not have time for another ship. But the next ship that we're going to do is going to be a little weird. And I'm going to explain exactly why. So, we just got done with that one. Now we're going to go back to another ship that is almost never seen. And that's going to be the Nova class. And that right there is a picture of the Nova class. We do have pictures of it. We have seen it before. Like I said, almost never seen. So, according to this, it says it's sometimes referred to as a battleship. It's an immense Earth Alliance warship designed to bring massive firepower against any target, which is fine. It is one of the older classes that fought alongside the Hyperion-class heavy cruiser and shares a similar basic design as the much later Omega class. I mean, take a look at it. You see the Nova? You see the Omega. Nova. Omega. They're almost the same thing. Almost. The only difference is that the Nova has much, much bigger cannons, and it does not have the rotating section. Now here's the interesting thing. It has these giant cannons all over it. But does that necessarily mean it's better? Because it says right here, It has 18 twin cannons of unknown type. This was very obviously the predecessor for the Omega. As such, the weapons equipped on it are probably also the predecessor to the Omega. And let's see, JP says, is my flying saucer next time? Probably not, but we will get to it. And Blizz says, gotta go. Well, Blizz, it was great having you here. Thank you for coming by, and I hope you'll be here next time. So until then, take care. All right. Everything about the Nova class says that this is the predecessor to the Omega. And that's how I kind of want to treat it. I kind of want to treat it as being the same base frame, but with different armaments. So what I mean by that is, I think once we figure it out, we're going to use the same template essentially for it, for things like the engines, the computer, the sensors, everything else. The only thing that will change will be the armaments. And we can see that there are a ton of them. There are so many of them that I'm not sure if I can even actually put all of those on there. We may be limited simply by what the game does. Because the game says, Starfinder specifically states, no more than 4 weapons per arc. Forward, port, starboard, aft, and turret. So it's a maximum of 20. It's the toughest a ship can possibly get. With this one, it very clearly has turreted weapons on the top and bottom, and the way that they're fixed is really good, because it looks like they have a huge range of fire. The forward-mounted weapons are forward-mounted, nothing we can do about that, but the fact is that it looks like it has really great coverage. Frankly, I think that what I could do is, with 18, if I were to put 4 forward weapons, that would leave me with 14 left. That's not very good. If I had 2 forward weapons that were clearly much bigger, I could put 4 weapons in the other categories. So 4 port, 4 starboard, 4 aft, and then 4 turrets. I don't know. It's an idea. But the next time we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the Nova class and the Omega class. Both of those should go relatively quick. Especially since once I get one done, I can more or less just copy and paste the other. And then after that, we go to the Warlock. And the Warlock is going to be interesting because the Warlock, well, it's definitely different. The Warlock didn't come until much, much later, and it was an upgrade. It's one of the first Earth Force ships to actually have its own gravity. And we do have some information on it, as you can see, but not much. Like it says, it gives us a good idea of what's on it. It has lots of missiles. It should be a pretty good indication of why we never see it, because nobody else uses missiles. And it says it has Star Furies and Thunderbolts, but it doesn't tell us how many. So, gonna have to make up some of the stuff along the way. But alright, that's gonna be enough for today. I don't mind knocking out here a few minutes early, because if I look outside, it's still snowing sideways. Which is not good for me, because we're supposed to get upwards of 16 to 18 inches of snow. And I gotta go clear all of it. I'm gonna check the weather forecast like right now. Let's take a look. Winter storm warning still in effect. It's 8 degrees outside. Feels like -6. Visibility is a quarter mile. I don't know how much snow has fallen already. They're talking an additional 9 over the next 24 hours. It's not good. It's not good. So, I have to go see if I can coax the snowblower into life and start getting rid of it. So, we're going to end here. If you want to see more of this, don't forget, if you haven't subscribed already, do that. Just press the button. Just do it. It's one click. How many times do you click a mouse button in a day? Just click it one more time. And then while you're there, go ahead, hit the bell icon. That we get notified every time these videos come out. If you know somebody else who's also into Babylon 5 or Starfinder, then go ahead and share this video with them. In particular because I want them to come here. Okay? I want them to come here. I want them to come join us so we can play the game. I need more players. I need more players. So, if you want to, if you like what I'm doing here, leave a like on the video. If you want to leave a comment down below, you can do that. But I really want you to come join the Discord. Come to the Behind the Screen channel. Tell me what games you want to play and what your availability is so we can put a gaming group together. We're already playing Star Trek. If you want to play Star Trek, come join us. If you want to play something else, let me know. So, do that. Hopefully I will see you there. If not there, hopefully I see you back here next week. And until then, take care.